cupcakes and stud muffins, and welcome back to my channel. Alright, as you can see, we have an array of craft supplies today, which only means one thing: DIY home decor. The first thing I'm going to make is the floral pumpkin. This I made last year and I loved how it came out. It's like my favorite pumpkin in the entire world. So we're going to recreate that pumpkin, only this time we're going to make it in the orange. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is take off the tags, and then I'm going to clean the pumpkins up. Even though these are like craft pumpkins from Michael's, they're quite dingy. Alright, for this DIY project, the supplies are very minimal, which is why I also love this project. Basically, we only need pumpkins, however many you want to decoupage. And to decoupage, we need some Mod Podge. I like to use the matte, but I mean, use whatever you like. You can even use the like waterproof one. You need a brush. Any kind of brush will do. And you need dried flowers. These are actually flowers that I bought off of Amazon last year. These are all the leftover ones that I have. So, and then I also have an extra dish, so that way I'm not like dipping into this. Alright, so if you've ever Mod Podged anything, if you've ever decoupaged anything, this is fairly straightforward. I cleaned the pumpkins and I dried them, and now I'm going to go ahead and pour some of that Mod Podge in there. Ooh, I should have brought napkins. Look, I supposedly brought a dish so I wouldn't make a mess. And so next up, I'm just going to go through my flowers and pick out the ones that I want to use. I'm going to work on the orange one first, because for sure I know I have enough for the orange one. We'll see how much I have left after I make this one. Because it is an orange pumpkin, I want to get away from like all the orangey colors, because it won't really pop. I do want to, however, do more of like whites and yellows and creams and greens. Alright, you guys, we're just gonna have to roll with the punches. Roman is up from his nap earlier than I expected. And he does not want to go play in the guest room. He wants to play here. So we're crafting with Roman today. So, like I said before, I'm going to pick out the flowers that I want to use. I want to stick to more yellows and whites. Basically anything lighter than this pumpkin. I don't have enough flowers for this pumpkin. Silly me, I thought I had more. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to start off by adding some Mod Podge to the pumpkin. Just like that. Okay, and I like to do a section at a time. If it dries, then they will not adhere. Okay, so we're going to do this one here. Okay, and it's sticking out, and that's fine. You're going to go back in with some more Mod Podge, and you're going to Mod Podge over that. Now, depending on the size of your pumpkin, which I had this problem with my other pumpkin that I did last year, if the flowers are too big, and since they're dry, they're kind of like stiff, they're not going to stick flat onto your pumpkin, because there's not a large enough surface. I had trouble especially with like the little vines and leaves, so that's what I'm going to work on this time, trying to get those ends a little bit flatter. It's going to look crazy at first, just like all Mod Podge projects, but once it dries, it'll look great. So honestly, I like to go in first with like my flowers and my petals, and then I'll go back in with like leaves and little branch like pieces. And I'll just fill in the gaps with all of those. And honestly, you can cascade these if you like. That's a really pretty look. I, however, don't think I have enough to cascade. And sometimes I'll go in like with the scissors, like especially like that piece. I don't know if you can tell. I'll show you guys later if you can't. It's sticking out, and sometimes I can't get it to stick down, so I'll just go in with some scissors and like trim it up. Now, the technique that I like to use, I like to kind of like pat. Now, excuse my son, he's going to be yelling in the background. He's awake from his nap. Yeah, excuse me while I get shorter here, but my legs are falling asleep. And these come out really pretty. Now, if you live in a place where you actually have autumn and you have all these amazing trees that turn colors, that would be amazing with this. I suppose if you don't live in a place where there's autumn, I'm sure you can also buy like dried florals. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with the greens now. I'm just gonna have that on with the green. Now this would be a fun project, like if you have kids that are willing to do craft projects. You know, you go out, get some leaves, and then you decoupage a pumpkin. So I have some areas that are sticking out, but I'm just going to let it dry that way, and then I'll go back in if I need to, and I'll decoupage it down. But in some cases it's a little tough, so I might just, you know, like snip it off. Okay, I'm going to leave it at this. I'm going to let it dry. Then I'm going to go in and snip whatever I need to snip off. And then I'll put another coat of Mod Podge. Okay, and for these next few projects, I am going to switch over to voiceover. Roman is being quite loud. Next up, I am working on a wreath. I got this bead wreath at Hobby Lobby. I did see one online where they created their own with like half circles, well, half beads, and then they just pasted them on a form. Along with this wreath form, you do need some scissors, ribbon, and of course your florals. I got mine at Hobby Lobby. I did put the wire cutters in there, but honestly I did not use them. I almost forgot to mention that I did use a glue gun to adhere the florals onto the wreath form. I recommend using wires, especially if you're using this wreath in particular. It will stay on better, trust me. So here I am placing the leaves onto the wreath form. I like these colors. I feel like it'll give a little bit more of a brightness to my home, which that's what I'm looking for. I want to put them kind of like in the corner, not so much like one on each side. I do want it to be more of a corner piece. And then on top of those, I'm gonna put this, I want to say it's wheat. I'm not certain that it is, but maybe it is, maybe it's not, I don't know. Basically anything that you can find in the floral section. I actually got these where all the picks are in Hobby Lobby. Although I want this wreath to look very simple, I also want to layer on all the florals that I have to make it full, like in that one area. So here I am wrapping the leaves around the wreath, and from there I'll go ahead and start gluing everything. I'll glue everything down. I always like to place everything on top of each other first to see how it looks and if I'll like it, and then I'll go back in and put in every piece one by one, gluing them down as I go. As you're working with the glue gun, remember that it is hot. I guess I hadn't crafted in a while and I kept burning myself, and I felt very like silly, like as if I had never used the glue gun before. Because of the beaded wreath form, I did struggle a lot to adhere all the florals onto it. I'm not gonna lie. I wish I would have bought the floral wire, because that would have made things so much easier and it would have gone much faster. So if you're going to attempt to do this, I suggest buying the floral wire and possibly also using the glue gun.
Once I finished adding all of my autumnal florals, I also added this like pine cone with the berries and acorns on it. I wasn't too fond of it, but I preferred it with it rather than without it. Maybe later on I'll go in and I'll switch it with a pumpkin, but I kind of did not want the pumpkin. Overall, I think it looks pretty great. I am very happy with it, and it actually goes very well in my home. Okay, and now that we're finished with the wreath, we're going to start with the candles. I do have my wax, my fragrance oils, my wicks, my thermometer, some little stickers to stick the wicks in, and a pot here with water. You just want to bring that to a simmer so that way we can melt the wax. So this is the brand that I use. I am using an apple cider fragrance oil to begin with and a harvest spice. I am going for a spiced apple cider fragrance for my first candle. And just like with many crafts, there are so many elements to consider when making candles. You have to think about the temperature of your jars, the amount of fragrance oils that go in them, and when you pour in the fragrance, and when you pour your candle wax into the jars. Like, there are so many things that go into it, but honestly, mine, I am not looking for them to be, you know, perfect. I'm okay with the homemade look. So I did get these jars from Amazon. I believe I got like a pack of like 12. And I like them because I can use them for many things, not just for candles, but honestly, they're probably going to be used for candles. I was having problem with one of the wicks. I tugged on it a little bit too much, and I guess it wasn't stuck on the bottom that well, and so I did end up pulling it up. Once I finished pouring the wax into these jars, I went ahead and started my second batch of candles, which really was just one. I wanted this to be a pumpkin pie scented one, but I also wanted a cinnamon smell to it, so I added both of these fragrance oils. Because it is a pumpkin pie scented candle, I did want to put that in this pie baking dish. I also got these on Amazon. I believe I got like a pack of 6 for like $30, and I added 4 wicks to this one. I tried making this before with 2 wicks, and it was not enough for the entire candle. It like burnt really weird, and you know, you get all these puddles. So when you're making candles, just make sure you have the right amount of wicks for the candle size. A few other tips you may want to consider when making these candles. You want to make sure that your dish or your container is heated up. I put my oven to 170, that's the lowest it will go. And then I went ahead and I popped those in the oven and I let them sit there for about 30 minutes. You also want to make sure that you let these cool completely and also very slowly. I placed mine on top of my stove and let them cool.
Yeah, are you there?
Up, Pika, bear. Up, you, Narayan,
Okay, so let's go ahead and finish up our crafts. Let's start with the wreath. This is how my wreath ended up. When you're making the wreath, you want to be sure you secure all your all your florals, because since these are beads, they do roll around. Therefore, your wreath will roll around as well. So make sure you secure that. And the way I'm going to finish it off is going to be with a bit of ribbon. I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, I want my wreath to be, therefore my ribbon will be right here. I secured my bow, and then that will be the top of my wreath. I don't have a hook on the back of my door yet, but I will put one there.
Again.
I'll show you in a little bit what it looks like hanging up somewhere. Okay, now next up I'm going to finish off the candles. The candles, you want to make sure that they dry completely. Excuse me. I apologize for Roman. I know I'm not an expert at making candles. I just kind of made them for fun and so I can have them. So, you know, like the sides aren't perfect, but I'm okay with that. Honestly, I bet like even my parents and my sister who I'll be gifting these to, they'll be fine with that too. But I know there is a way so that way you don't get that. Usually it's to heat up your glass roughly around the same temperature as your wax while you're pouring it. I tried to do that, but I guess I didn't do that well enough. But anyways, you want to make sure that they completely dry, and also if you have a heat gun, you can always go over with a heat gun to like even out the top of it, which I'm not going to do because I don't have a heat gun and I don't feel the need to. Anyway, to finish these off, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the wick. So that's one. Okay, that's two. To fancy these up a bit, what I did is I actually made some labels. I just made a little drawing on Procreate, and I put apple cider because that's the scent of these. It's like a spicy apple cider. And then I just put hand poured soy wax, and then on the bottom I put 89 cupcakes, kind of, you know, make it look like a one that you would pick up at a store. I already did that with this one and I think it looks so cute, and honestly it covers up like your imperfections as well, so that's great. So I do have one cut out, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that on one of these, and then this one will be ready. I find it interesting that Roman is very quiet when I'm not talking, but as soon as I start talking he gets going. Alright, and there's one. Okay, so I went ahead and cut it. Yay! I went ahead and cut it. Alright, and here is the second one. I don't know if you guys can see that. So honestly, for our last candle, you don't really need to do anything other than to snip the wicks. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. When it comes to making candles, I did read that you need to let them cure for at least 3 days. I'm not all that patient, so I don't always do that, but you know, they're my candles.
Well, but you are. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, now if I did have a heat gun, if anything I would use it on this candle because you can see all the like imperfections. I'm okay with that, but like if I did have one, I would use it on this one. Not so much on these. These, they're fine. The last thing I want to show you are the pumpkins. Now the pumpkin that I created in this video, I'm not very fond of it, and I think it's because of the color. I don't think it pops, which I would love if it did. I do think it's still cute, but it's not as pretty as this one. See, this one with the white pumpkin or cream, whatever you want to call it, it definitely pops more, and I don't know, it's just cuter. But next to each other, they look just great.